Hi.
Yeah, David, thanks for coming back in. This never ceases to interest you, this subject.
No, I'm a obsessive compulsive water person.
You're a water
it's a
baby.
good business. Water is in everybody's lives in some way, and no
Yes.
matter where I look, it's there's more going on. So it's interesting.
Yes, and people take it for granted everywhere you go, don't they?
Usually, yeah,
Very
but they're
good.
happy when they get it. Yeah. In the developed world, they pretty much take it for granted, but they're very concerned that they can continue to take it for granted.
Very good.
And that brings us to human rights. Chapter 11 is on the human right to water, and most people in the developed world don't think about the human right to water, but they are the beneficiaries of a long history, 100 or 200 years at a minimum, in developed countries of providing water to all citizens. And that's why we call it a public utility, because the public is benefiting from this utility. And where water is concerned, there's a lot of parts of the world where people do not have good access to clean, drinkable water. Upwards of 900 million people. About 2 or 3 billion people do not have adequate sanitation, so they don't have a good place to use the toilet. So this debate is primarily about those billions of people who are not in developed countries. And the human right to water basically is the idea that we will make a law giving everybody in a country a right to water, and that will fix the problem. They will have water. And I did some analysis in this chapter, and I looked at countries that had a human right to water and similar countries that did not. And then I looked at what level had water access to everybody, and then how that changed when they had the human right to water. And they kind of changed at the same rate. So, and that is because of economic development and good governance. It's not necessarily connected to having a law on the books. And in the chapter, I go on to talk about, what is the real problem for getting water to poor people. And it's not really having a law that says that they have a right. The problem is they don't live in a system where the water is delivered. There's corruption problems, there's incompetence problems, there's governance problems. That's how we generally talk about it. And in my work I used to be a development economist, and so I understand these issues and I explain these issues in the chapter. And I talk about how what poor people need is not somebody saying you have a right to water. What poor people need is a property right in water, in the sense that they own the water. And once they own the water, the same as if they own the land, or if they own their motorcycle, if they own a chicken, once they own the water, they're able to use that water ownership in a marketplace to get the water to show up at their house, or to sell the water to make money from that endowment, from that asset. It's mostly a theoretical discussion, but it's aimed at this problem, which is around the world for poor people, and most of them wanting water but having governance that are not delivering the water to their taps.
And last question, David. Do you foresee, like you're a young man, do you foresee in your lifetime that your suggestions will make a difference to people's lives in these countries where you say millions, maybe billions of people are affected?
I'm one person. There's a lot of people that are making suggestions like this. So I think that as people grasp with this issue, and they're thinking, okay, we don't have enough water, how do we deal with it? They think, okay, well, if we have something and we need to make sure that either people get it or we want to incentivize people to conserve it, they start thinking about markets and prices and economic incentives. I mean, asking people to do the right thing in terms of making sure water shows up, can you do the right thing and give me some water, is sometimes asking too much. And what we want to do is we want to make sure people are incentivized to get the water, but also so that there's some fairness aspect to it. And that's the balancing act that I cover in this chapter.
Very good. Next time I meet you, we'll talk about life isn't fair. Thank you, David.
Right.